Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. So, a week ago today, we finally got the long-anticipated Xbox Bethesda Showcase. And if you follow me on Twitter, at DanielJMcG, you may have already seen my live reactions to it over on the Double Barrel Gaming channel, where I got to join an amazing 10-person panel. We had a ton of fun. I'll leave a link in the description to it in case you want to go back and watch that. But now that we've had a full week to digest everything that was shown there, I thought I would sit down and give you guys my more in-depth thoughts about everything that was shown. So, let's get into it. So I think the best way to start this is just going to be to go through some of my highlights of the show. And where better to start that than right at the beginning of the show when we got first gameplay for Redfall. Going into the show, I didn't really have any expectations for this game. I didn't really know what it was, and I wasn't all that interested in it, but, well, I am now, right? The gameplay of it that we saw looked really good. It was this combination of like a sort of Left 4 Dead meets Far Cry meets Dishonored, all mixed together sort of thing. And you could really tell just by looking at the environments that somebody had really put a lot of thought into just the story of what had happened in each of these locations, right? You see messages left and things overturned in a way that implies like a battle had happened, right? So that sort of intelligent set dressing is always really interesting to me. And we also got a good look at all the different playable characters of it, although I suspect with a live service game like that they'll probably add more later. But so far, I'm definitely going to end up maining Layla, who's the like goth chick with the magic powers. She gives me like Teen Titans Raven vibes, and that's a good thing because that's like one of my favorite characters in fiction. So gonna be doing Layla for sure. This game looks like it's gonna be a blast in co-op, and I'm kind of hoping that it'll still be fun in solo because I tend to play games at weird hours, so it might be kind of hard for me to find a group to play with, but hopefully this game is as good as it looks, and I'm actually really looking forward to it now, which I wasn't before, so I'd say that was a win for them. Immediately after that, we rolled into something that I've been waiting, I think actually literally years to hear more about, which is Hollow Knight Silksong. If you haven't been a fan of the channel for a while, I'll let you know, my favorite game of the last generation was Hollow Knight. I was impressed by everything about it, especially the fact that it was made by a 3-man team, and this looks like it's going to be just as good, if not better. Getting to play as Hornet sounds really exciting. It's, of course, still beautiful. That music is going to be amazing, just like it was in the first one. I'm so excited. I wish we had gotten a release date, but just knowing that it's going to be in Game Pass day one is a huge win. Although it probably isn't going to save me money, because if it has a physical release, especially one with like a collector's edition where you get some kind of like physical goods, then I'm probably going to end up buying that. So it's not going to save me any money, but it's a really good get for Game Pass. And if you haven't played Hollow Knight, please take this chance while we don't know when Silksong is coming out to go back and play it, because you will not regret it, I promise. After that, we rolled into High on Life, which is probably one of my biggest surprises of the show, because, I mean, I didn't know this game existed before the show. I don't know if it had been released or announced beforehand, but I definitely hadn't heard of it. It's a sort of Rick and Morty-inspired Oddworld Stranger's Wrath vibes, like bounty hunting game. It's coming out of Squanch Games, so I guess they decided that they're done with VR, which is probably for the better, because VR is dying, but this looks really fun, and it's got that Rick and Morty humor, which, to be honest, I don't generally vibe with too much, and I think it's mostly because the Rick and Morty fan base is like really cringe, so if I like watch Rick and Morty, I'm afraid that I'll fall into that trap. But this game looks like a lot of fun, and it comes out this year, so we don't have to wait for it long. So this is honestly probably one of the things that I am most anticipating coming out of this show, and I think it looks great. We also got Sarah Bond come out to the show, which it's always nice to see her. She was wearing an amazing dress, 10 out of 10. Really love seeing her. And she told us that everything in this showcase is going to be coming out over the next 12 months, which is crazy to think about, right? That they were able to put on such an amazing show entirely consistent of games that we were going to be playing before the next one of these shows, right? that blows me away. And I know that some people were really weirdly upset about it, and we'll talk about that later. But for me, I was thrilled. But the reason I bring her up is because she announced this Riott Games partnership, which is, I think, one of the biggest news items to come out of this showcase. Because what it is that Riott Games has made a partnership with Xbox, and more specifically Game Pass, so that all of their games, League of Legends, Valorant, the other ones, I'm not a huge Riot fan, are going to have a Game Pass element to them, right? Whereas, in League of Legends, you'll get all the champions. I think it's the same thing in Valorant, right? And that's absolutely huge. I know that people don't really talk about League of Legends too much, but it's a massive game. It might be one of the biggest games going right now, right? Because it has, I think it's like 150 million users, 125 million monthly users in the last month. It's absolutely massive, especially in the Asian markets like Japan, Korea, China, where Xbox is really trying to get a foothold. And so this is a huge play for them, right? It might actually even make me play League of Legends again, because now that I don't have to pay to play all of the characters, I might actually want to jump in and give it a shot. Apparently it's a fun game. 125 million people can't be that wrong, can they? But regardless, I know that this isn't like the most exciting announcement or the sexiest announcement, but you have to understand, this is something that's going to put tens of millions of new subscribers into Game Pass, and that's a good thing for everyone in the community, because it's going to mean more money, it's going to mean more support, it's going to mean more games at the end of the day, and I think we can all agree that that's a good thing. After that, we rolled into Plague Tale Requiem, which looks absolutely stunning. I'm probably going to be saying that about a lot of games in this showcase, because I was genuinely blown away by the majority of the things that I saw here. This in particular gave me a lot of Last of Us vibes, the way she was stabbing people and crawling underneath stuff, and just the visuals of it. Really felt like they had done the first Plague Tale and they said, how can we take this to the next level? And they looked at similar sort of toned games, being The Last of Us, and they said, maybe we can take another step in that direction. And I think that they really nailed it, and I'm super excited for this. I haven't played the first one of these yet, and I really need to, because apparently it's amazing. I think it's in Game Pass. Actually, I think I own it. I think I bought that at some point. I need to go back and play that game. Good thing, I guess, that it's going to be a really easy year to get through some of my backlog. Good thing, bad thing. But this is a game that I'm very excited for, and I think a lot of people will be too. So don't sleep on Plague Tale, like I have been. And then something that maybe didn't specifically speak to me, but that I know spoke to a ton of people, was Forza Motorsport, right? This is the most impressive, both visually and technically, game that I think I've ever seen. We didn't necessarily get that on the live stream when I was doing my live reacts, but I rewatched it later in 4K, and damn, those cars look good. I mean, I know that car games always present better than normal games when it comes to sort of next generation hardware, so I'm not surprised that it looks that good, especially because Forza just kind of always looks good. But this is, like, this I feel like is a next level step, right? And they did talk about this for kind of a long time, which I didn't need, but a lot of the things that they were saying are exactly the kind of nitty-gritty details that the people who are really into racing sims want to hear. When people come out on stage and they start talking about, like, oh, the weather is going to affect how your tires stick to the track, and like going into all these nitty-gritty, like, that means nothing to me, right? I don't care about that. But if you're a car nut, you're like creaming your pants over details like that. And so I understand why I was in here. Plus on top of that, Forza is the most popular and the highest rating racing series, I think, of all time. So like, you can't be mad that it was in here. And for me, I get to look at this and say, if they can hit even 50% of the fidelity of this game in in Fable, then I'm going to be absolutely blown away. And speaking of Forza, they actually also had the Hot Wheels expansion for Forza Horizon 5. I always can't keep track of all the car games because I, well, frankly, don't play them. But it looked really fun. I played the Hot Wheels expansion on Forza Horizon. I think it was 3, and it was honestly one of the only things in a racing game that I've enjoyed in the last little while. So, I mean, that and the Lego expansion were both really great. So I'm super excited to see it come back. Definitely going to jump in on it. You know, the way that they showed it, where it's just like this breathtaking, you know, vistas and things from that we already had in the game, I guess, from the, you know, the Mexican area, it just kind of awkwardly dropped in there with all these like Hot Wheels tracks was like, clearly this is somebody's dream come true, right? And then in the extended show, they actually went on to talk about how with this expansion, they were also going to give you the ability to create your own track by just kind of snapping these Hot Wheel track pieces together. And that sounds amazing. Like that's literally going to extend the lifetime of this game by years, right? We're going to be, well, not me, but people who are into racing games are going to be playing this game all the way until the next Horizon comes out. Maybe even past that. And that's something that I'm really excited for, right? I think that it's great that community is going to be so happy with the offerings that they're getting from this game. And, you know, I think it's time that we start giving racing games, even though I don't care about them, the flowers that they deserve. I mean, Forza Horizon 5 was IGN's Game of the Year last year, and it absolutely deserved it. Partially because there weren't that many good games that came out last year, and also because it was extremely well deserved. It was a beautiful game, masterfully put together, and I'm really excited for this Hot Wheels DLC. We also got to see Overwatch 2, which I'm not really big on competitive shooters. I'm just not a competitive person when it comes to video games, but Overwatch has always kind of been an exception. I always had a lot of fun with Overwatch, and especially now that Overwatch 2 is going to be adding a single player campaign, I'm actually really excited for it because a lot of the characters in it are really cool designs and really interesting characters from what I've seen in like the cutscenes and stuff that they put out whenever they add a new character. They added a new character in this who's the Junk Queen, who's been talked about forever, I feel like, with that game. And she has big step on me energy, which I am here for. And I think this is a really great thing to have on the show because it sort of helps establish that Activision Blizzard sort of partnership for the acquisition that's coming. It sort of gets people ready to connect the two. Which is probably also why we saw Diablo 4, which looks absolutely amazing. I love the character and monster designs. I've never, again, been super big into Diablo or that kind of isometric looter type thing. But this looks like the one that's going to get me into it. It looks gorgeous. The story that we heard from the narration sounded really interesting. A lot of people I know are really excited for it, so I know I'm going to have an easy time finding people to play with. You know, I think that Diablo 4 is going to be a massive game just in general, and especially for Xbox since they'll own Activision by the time that comes out, most likely. We rolled into Scorn from there, which is gross, like really gross. I love horror games. I play a lot of horror games. But this sort of specific brand of body horror, I don't know if it's going to be for me. It's a little much, but from what we saw, it looks absolutely stunning in terms of detail, maybe not in terms of aesthetic. But I will absolutely give this game a shot, although I may genuinely not want to or be able to finish it. We also saw Flintlock, which looks like very high double A. It kind of looks like an answer to Forspoken, except just massively less cringe, although I guess we didn't see anybody talk, so maybe it'll have like old man writing for teenagers energy like Forspoken does. But this looks really interesting. The combat of it looked really good. I'm interested to see what the relationship between the main character and that like carbuncle looking creature that she hangs out with is. This was another one that apparently it had been announced beforehand, but I hadn't seen it before. So for me, this was a nice little surprise in the middle of the show that I'm really now looking forward to. And speaking of which, another game that did that same thing was it was called Lightyear Frontier. It's this like really cutesy looking like space farming sim slash maybe town builder. It looked like it had some elements of that in there as well, and I'm really into that. You know, sometimes I just want a game that's just chill where I can just sit down, relax, and plant some vegetables or something. You know, I think Animal Crossing really got a lot of us into that sort of gameplay during the pandemic, and I could go for another game that's kind of got those same vibes, and this looks like it might be that. Another one was The Last Case of Benedict Fox, which is absolutely not going to be chill, relaxing vibes, but it looks amazing. I don't know what specifically it was, but the second that trailer started, I was like, immediately interested. I couldn't tell you if it was the art style or the music or what, but something about it just gripped me immediately. It looks beautiful, right? The art style of it, just the sort of eldritch Lovecraftian thing that they're going for is always something that's very interesting to me, so I'm all for it. I don't generally like Metroidvanias, but there's been some really major exceptions to that, like Hollow Knight, like Ori, and I'm hoping this will be the third one of those because it looks really good, so this is absolutely going to be a day one play for me. Something that might not be a day one play, but that I'm still, now looking forward to is As Dusk Falls. We've seen this one before, and I wasn't really ever feeling it before, but the way it was shown here really did make me interested in this game, right? It has this really cool, like, almost oil painting art style to it, where there's going to be a lot of people who don't like it because it's like, you know, still frames kind of flipping through at like a very low frame rate, and I know that a lot of people are really going to hate that and say like, oh, this is a terrible art style, but I'm actually really feeling it. Like, it feels really good, and they showed the sort of branching choices of it. So now that I know that this is that kind of game, like a Quantic Dream or like a Telltale kind of game, now I sort of understand what it's going to be, and I really like a lot of those games, so I'm thinking that this could be one of those. You know, I a lot of the time when we get, you know, Telltale games especially, they're like licensed property stuff, so it's going to be nice to get just an entirely unique story out of this. And it looks like the acting for it is really good, so I'm definitely going to play this on Game Pass. I don't know if I'm going to end up loving it, but I'm definitely going to give it a shot. And in that same vein, we actually also saw Josh Sawyer's new game called Pentiment, which originally, when we were watching it on the live stream, I had absolutely no interest in. And if you go and you watch that live stream, you'll know that no one in that live stream did. In fact, one of the guys, Mag, just kind of started yelling, "No, God, no!" Like he went full Michael Scott on it. And, you know, I can't say that I blame him. If nothing else, I can say that it's a brand new art style that I've never seen anything else try and tackle, and so that by itself is very interesting to me. But what sold me on it after the fact was hearing Josh Sawyer talk about it in the extended showcase 2 days after the original showcase, where he sort of went into more detail of sort of what the gameplay of it was going to be. We saw a little bit more gameplay of like how it's going to work out. People have been comparing it to Disco Elysium, which I don't understand necessarily. I guess just because it's a game where you do more talking than fighting. But there's a lot of games like that. Whatever. It looks really interesting, and it seems like the people who made it were really passionate about it. And I don't know, they kind of sold me on it. And it comes out pretty soon, so I don't have to wait long to play it. So all those things combined have made me come around to the idea of this is probably something I should at least give a shot to. And speaking of Obsidian, Joe Sawyer's from Obsidian, I don't know if I made that clear. We also saw Grounded, which is coming out of, I should say, early access this year. Grounded is it's a survival game, and I don't generally really vibe with survival games, but I played this during one of its first, like, initial updates, and I had a lot of fun with it, but it definitely felt not finished, and so I stopped playing it and was like, okay, I'm going to wait until it's done. And now it looks like it's finally going to be done. And a lot of the things that they showed in that trailer, which I don't know if they've been playable for a while, look really interesting. So I think this is going to be my exception to the rule for survival games. It's aesthetic and vibe just feels really good and really interesting, and it just looks really good. And again, it's a very small team from Obsidian, and I'm so glad between this and Pentiment that Obsidian is still being allowed to do weird games, right? To do sort of smaller passion projects. In Pentiment's case, I'm also very glad that that game comes out soon, so we can get Josh Sawyer off of that and move him on to New Vegas 2, but that's just me being selfish. In Grounded's case, this game has become extremely popular, and now that it's just about out, I think I'm going to jump in and see what all the buzz is about, because I had a lot of fun with it before, and I think I'll have a lot of fun with it again. We also saw a brand new game from Team Ninja called Wolong. It looks dope. It's one of the only things we didn't see gameplay of, so I don't really necessarily know exactly how this is going to end up playing, but it is Team Ninja, so safe money is on it's going to be an action game of some degree. You know, whether that's closer to the Ninja Gaiden side of things or closer to the Neo side of things is yet to be seen, but either way, it should be a ton of fun. And I'm absolutely psyched to see Xbox start to get more, I think this one's Chinese, but more Asian developed games onto their platform. It's something that they've been really needing to fix, that they just didn't have many of those on their platform. And this one looks especially good. You know, it looks like it takes place during like Three Kingdoms era China, with some very notable twists, because we saw like zombies and a dragon. But right at the end we saw my boy Lu Bu, and I'm always going to be psyched to see Lu Bu in a game, so let's get it. And speaking of getting Japanese games, the announcement I think immediately after that was one that I have been personally hoping for years, which is Persona is finally coming to Xbox. Persona 3, Persona 4, and Persona 5. More specifically, Persona 3 Portable, Persona 4 Golden, and Persona 5 The Royal, which is absolutely amazing. This, for me, is the biggest announcement of the show, bar none. And I know that some people are going to be like, oh, but these games came out in the PS2. Why are you excited for these super old games? It's like, because I love these games. If you had been enjoying Persona for as long as I have, if you had played those games back during the PS2 generation, then you would understand how long of a wait it's been to see these games put pretty much anywhere else, and getting them finally on Xbox, especially my preferred platform, is a huge win, both for me and for Xbox, frankly. They're all launching into Game Pass, but I'll probably buy them anyway, just because I know at some point they're probably going to leave Game Pass, and I'm going to want to own these forever. These are some of the best JRPGs of all time. Somebody might disagree with that, but they're wrong. These games are amazing. Literally my only complaint about this is that we're getting the absolute best version of Persona 5 with Royal. We're getting the best version of Persona 4 with the Golden. But we're getting Persona 3 Portable, and it should definitely be Persona 3 FES, which is, I think, pretty distinctly the better one. Like, Persona 3 Portable has a weirder, like, more almost chibi art style that is just like, I don't know why we're going for that one. But hey, beggars can't be choosers, and boy was I begging, you know what I mean? So I'm perfectly fine with it. I will take anything, and I'm hoping that this means that when Persona 6 comes out, that it'll be launching onto Xbox, and I think that's a safe bet at this point. Now, if you want me to go crazy, you know, I'll say this. Every Persona game has a primary color that is the key to its aesthetic. Persona 3 it was blue, Persona 4 it was yellow, and Persona 5 it was red. Persona 6 is going to be green, and it's going to launch day one on Game Pass. Maybe it's exclusive, probably won't be, but it's going to be day one on Game Pass. That's my bet. Take it to the bank. It's going to be wrong. Take it to the bank, though. After that, we saw like a really kind of nothing announcement where Kojima showed up, and he was like, I'm making a game for Xbox. And we already kind of knew that, but just making it official is massive, right? He's a huge name, even though I personally don't really like his stuff. I think he's kind of washed. But just being able to say, Kojima is making a game exclusively for Xbox. That's going to sell Xboxes. It doesn't even matter what the game is. People are going to be buying Xboxes today knowing literally nothing about that Kojima game and knowing that it probably isn't going to be coming out until like 2025, 2026. We might not even see it until 2024. This game is a ways off. But just being able to say Kojima is making an Xbox game is huge news. Just maybe not for me personally. And then they ended the show with something that we all knew was going to be there, so not necessarily a surprise, but it was Starfield. And boy, Starfield looks good, huh? Like, it looks amazing. I'm so excited for it. Now, I don't think I'm going to like Starfield as much as Elder Scrolls or Fallout. I'm just not feeling the art style of it as much. But maybe I'll turn around on it when I'm actually playing it. But even just looking at it, like, graphically, this is such a major step up from, like, Fallout 4, right? In terms of just, lighting and creature design, animations, character faces. Like, it all looks amazing. Shooting looks way better than Fallout 4. There's a lot more mobility. We saw some of the cities, and they look really gorgeous and dense. We saw that they're bringing back base building, which was one of my favorite parts about Fallout 4. I know that's a controversial thing, but I really liked building settlements in Fallout 4. And it looks like it's improved in this, where the camera goes vertical, so you can actually see the whole thing, which would be nice. And they're also going to let you build your ship, so there's going to be people who immediately make the Ebon Hawk, or make the Millennium Falcon, or make the Firefly. All kinds of just famous ships are going to be in that game day one. I guarantee it. They'll probably show up in mods. I don't know if I hope that there's going to be a mod shop for it, like there has been in some of the more recent, like Skyrim and Fallout 4. Hopefully it'll be free, at least to Game Pass subscribers, so that I can just be like, yes, I would like to fly the Millennium Falcon. But this game is absolutely massive. I cannot wait to spend 600 hours in this thing. Now, people have been trying to throw a lot of FUD onto this game, a lot of fear, uncertainty, and doubt, if you didn't know what FUD stands for. People are like, oh, the faces don't look as good as The Last of Us. The shooting doesn't look as good as Call of Duty. There's too many planets. And it's like, okay, look, it's visually, it's a huge open world game like this with this level of interactivity is not going to look as good as Last of Us, which is a very linear thing with a lot more control over what's happening. It's not going to have shooting that's as interactive and as, gritty as Doom, because that's Doom's entire thing. You can't have a game that's good at everything. It's just never going to happen. So just be happy that these things are such a massive step up from the previous entry, And in terms of it being too big, because people are because there was a line in the trailer, or I guess the gameplay, where Todd Howard was like, there's over 1,000 planets, and it's okay, and people are like, oh my god, 1,000 planets, how am I ever going to... Look, most of those planets aren't going to matter. Realistically, there's going to be 15 to 25 that have actual important content on it. And those are going to be your Goldilocks planets that they were talking about in the gameplay, and then the rest of them are just going to be places where you can build a base or mine minerals or do some other stuff like that. And maybe there'll be a couple of quests where it's go to that weird asteroid over there and shoot that thing. But most of them aren't going to be that interesting, and you're not going to really care because you're not going to go to most of them anyway. So just calm down. This is going to be probably Game of the Year next year, so just be prepared for that to be the case. So I think the showcase was absolutely amazing, right? I'm coming out of this with 15 games that I'm super excited for, and I'm going to be playing day one when they come out. Now, I've heard a lot of people not loving this conference, and there's been a lot of reasons. People have been citing things like, oh, well, they spent too much time on Forza, they talked about Flight Sim, they talked about Elder Scrolls, they talked about Minecraft, and it's I get that those things are not for you, but you have to understand that those games are in this showcase because they're absolutely massive. Every single one of those games, and also Sea of Thieves and some of the other ones that showed up, are massive games. They make tons of money. They're constantly being updated. They've got millions upon millions of players. So they were going to be in this showcase. And on top of that, they all had content that's coming out in the next 12 months, which is something that Xbox really needed to show. So of course they were going to show those games. Like, I understand not being interested in it, but when they put on a showcase for this, you have to understand not everything in it is going to be for you. They're not putting on a showcase for Daniel McGartland or for you in particular. They're putting it on to interest millions upon millions of people. So if you're coming out of it with 5, 6, hell, maybe even 15, like me, games that you're genuinely really interested in, then this conference was a good one for you. You might not feel like it was, but it worked on you, didn't it? There's games that you probably didn't know about or weren't that interested in before that you are now. Or maybe you're excited that Persona is finally coming to the Xbox. I know I am. So I think that this was an absolutely amazing conference. And on top of that, it was exactly the showcase that Xbox needed. This answered so many of the questions that people have been throwing at Xbox, right? You know, a lot of people have been really upset lately because it's like, what are we going to be playing over the next 12 months? And this showcase answered that for 90 minutes straight, right? They were like, you want to know what's coming out in the next year? Here's a whole roadmap. And not just here's a roadmap, here's a really solid, good roadmap with tons of things that you're going to be interested in. You know, I know that there were some people who were upset that we didn't see things that were farther off. And first of all, I understand that. I understand that there were things that you wanted to see at this showcase. There's things that I wanted to see at this showcase that we didn't see. I would have loved to have seen Avowed or Elder Scrolls or whatever. But you can't judge a show based on what wasn't at it, or you'll never be happy. There's always going to be some stuff that you wish was at a showcase that wasn't. Like, I would have loved for there to have been a new Fallout game at this show, but that was never going to happen. That was extremely, you know, that's just not realistic given where we are, right? And, you know, things like Avowed, Fable, Contraband, Elder Scrolls, we're going to have a lot of opportunities to see them, right? Xbox is a company that, you know, it's not like Nintendo or PlayStation where they only put on like a couple of shows a year and they're usually really small. No, Xbox, you know, they've got their E3, I guess not E3 this year, but they have this showcase, and then they're going to be at Gamescom. They're going to be at Tokyo Game Show. They're going to have an XO event. I don't think QuakeCon is happening this year, but they own QuakeCon now. They're going to own BlizzCon soon. They're going to show something at the Game Awards like they always do. Like, there's going to be plenty of time to show off these games that are further off because there's more opportunities because they're not coming out in the next 12 months. Right? And I even saw some people who were upset because it was like, oh, well, I wanted to see Project Dragon or I wanted to see Project Midnight. And it's like, those games aren't even announced yet. Like, those games are just rumors. Like, you can't be mad that we didn't see a game that genuinely may not exist. You know what I mean? Like, I know that they're coming from credible sources, but we don't know anything about those games. We don't know if they're real or what they are. So why be mad that they weren't at this showcase? It just doesn't make any sense to me. And another question that they answered very well with this showcase was the Japanese games question, the Asian market question. You know, they hit that fact hard, right? They made that deal with Riott Games that's going to get tens of millions of people in the Asian marketplace onto Game Pass and into the Xbox ecosystem. They announced that Kojima partnership. They showed Wolong. They got Persona, right? Like, are there still some gaps? Absolutely. I would love to see Final Fantasy VII remake come to Xbox, but, well, that's a conversation for another video if you've seen recent news. You know, there's still a ton of work to be done here, but you have to understand that these are all major steps that we saw being taken at this showcase. And for every one of those that is made, you're going to make more and more Japanese fans of Xbox, which is going to make the next step that much easier. You know, it's a slow build and a fast payoff when it comes to these sort of things. And this is a huge step in the right direction. They even answered complaints from last year where people were like, "Oh, you showed off a bunch of games, but where's the gameplay, right?" And this showcase was almost entirely gameplay, which, to be fair, if it's coming out in the next 12 months, it better have some gameplay to show, because it'd be kind of worrying if it didn't. But, of course, now that they showed off all this gameplay, now there's people being like, "Oh, but where were the CGI trailers? I want to see the stuff that's further off." And it's like, okay, here's a hot take on this one, right? The people who are saying that, "Oh, I want to see CGI trailers. I want to see Project Midnight. I want to see Project Dragon," even though they're not going to come out for the next 5 years, right? Those people are the exact reason why we didn't see those things at this conference, because those people are the same people who next year, say we announce Project Dragon this year in 2022, if in 2023 we don't get another trailer for it, those people are going to be saying, "Well, where was Project Dragon?" And it's like, it's not going to come out for years. We're not going to show it every single year. It's going to get that death loop thing where everyone sees it 100 times and no one cares by the time it comes out, right? So they're not going to be announcing things that far off all the time. Things like this Kojima game are an exception. And if you're looking for games that are farther off that you can be excited for, Xbox got like 20 of them that you can look forward to. Look at Contraband, look at Fable, Avowed, Elder Scrolls 6. Tide Howard just like low-key confirmed Fallout 5 in an interview the other day. Like, there's things to look forward to on the Xbox platform. We don't necessarily need to see trailers for them now, because there's things that are coming out sooner that we need to know more about. So there's gonna be time to see those things. I understand that you wanted to see them now. I would have loved to have seen them now too, but it just didn't make sense for the showcase they were putting on. But so yeah, there's all my thoughts about the Xbox Bethesda Showcase. Please let me know what you thought about it down in the comments below. Did you like it? Did you hate it? Did you want to see something that wasn't there? Did you not expect to see something that was? I am always open to hearing new perspectives on things, and certainly this is something that a lot of people are divisive on, so I'd love to hear your takes on it. If you like this kind of content or just want to support the channel, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, share this with a friend, or find another video that you like and share that with a friend. We're really trying to grow this channel, and we've been seeing some great steps in that direction, and I want to make sure it doesn't slow down. If I can hit 500 subscribers by my birthday, I will be absolutely stoked. I'm not sure if it'll happen, but let's see if we can get there. But anyway, until next time, I'll see you around.